Again, let me thank Michael Schoenfeld for putting together this Beavertown Memorial today and giving me the opportunity to speak, which I really appreciate. I'd also like to thank John Roginski for his work with the musical acts. And I first became a fan of the Monkees when I was 13 years old. I remember watching the TV show on Nick at Night's summer block party and being instantly drawn to these four handsome boys and their crazy misadventures involving landlords, gangsters, conniving schemers, and gorgeous girls. In particular, the episode A Royal Flush reminded me of all the Disney movies and fairy tales that I had loved as a child. But somewhere around the 3rd grade, and more so after being diagnosed with Asperger's syndrome at age 10, I began to believe that love really only was true in fairy tales, meant for someone else, but not for me. I was bullied and teased by my classmates on a regular basis, and by the time I reached middle school and discovered the Monkees, I had come to believe that I was unlovable, and that as a child on the autism spectrum, I did not deserve and would never get to have a happily ever after. Something changed, though, as soon as I laid eyes on Davy Jones. I loved the Monkees show right from the start. Things made sense when nothing else in my life did. And for the first time, all I had to do was turn on the TV, and I had 4 new friends. Where I struggled to understand social situations in school, everything on the Monkees was so clear. The boys ran around and had fun as the music played, helped those who were in trouble, and the bad guys always lost, and the good guys always won. I escaped into the Monkees world, far away from the bullying and torment that I endured at school. On more than a few occasions, when the pain became too great and dark thoughts started to creep in, the Monkees was the only thing that got me through. Not having been into bands, really, up until that point, the idea of picking a favorite was still new to me. Each Monkee was different to me in his own way. Mickey was funny, Peter was sweet, Mike was intimidating. And then there was Davy. It's been said that when it comes to a band, you don't choose your favorite member, they choose you. One day, without any warning or expectation, Davy Jones chose me. There he was, with his silky hair, big brown eyes, and beautiful English accent, the living, if slightly shorter embodiment of every Disney prince that I'd ever seen. Handsome, quick-witted, clever, and cheeky, Davy charmed his way into my heart and sent stars into my eyes at almost every turn. And when he held the hands of a damsel in distress, looked her in the eyes, and told her that everything was going to be okay, I felt as though he was speaking to me, letting me know from however many miles away and years ago that I was going to be okay. For a little girl with no friends, whose life at that time was so full of loneliness and isolation, this meant the return of something that had faded almost entirely: hope. That was the magic of Davy Jones, the key to the sparkle that he brought to the TV show in even the most contrived episodes. When he looked at you, you were special, and you felt that he appreciated and loved you for exactly who you are, even from afar. There was no way I could have known it then, but 15 years later, afar would become up close and very much in person, when I finally got the chance to meet Davy Jones. In 2009, after drifting into other interests for a few years, I rediscovered the Monkees, and my participation in the online Monkees fandom, which in 2010 included co-founding a Monkees website called Naked Persimmon, wound up changing my life and bringing me several of the most meaningful and close friendships I've ever had. I was ecstatic when the Monkees toured again in 2011, 10 years after I'd first seen them live. It was a sunny Friday afternoon in June. Summer's heat hung heavy in the air, and there was a threat of storms later in the day. I got into the theater around soundcheck time to see a friend, and after we parted ways, I found myself near the tour buses, from which I was separated by a tall fence. No one else was around, strangely enough, and not knowing what else to do until the concert, I sat on the curb and watched the comings and goings. All of a sudden, who should emerge from the theater but Davy Jones himself? I couldn't believe it. There he was, with his frosted-tipped hair, sunglasses, and wearing a pastel short-sleeved shirt, looking every inch the chic Palm Beach retiree. I thought of everything I'd ever wanted to say to him, how he and the Monkees had saved my life and meant so much to me in such dark times, and how I'd loved him with all of my 13-year-old heart. So many thoughts and emotions rushed to the surface at once, but as I watched him walk to the tour bus, I found myself frozen to the spot. I'd met both Peter and Mickey previously, but not Davy, and despite my pounding heart and overwhelming desire to say something, having him there in front of me rendered me speechless. It was at that moment that Davy looked over at me, catching my gaze. I looked at him, and for a few brief moments that was all that happened. It was only the two of us there, and neither of us said a word. But in that silence, I felt a sense of acknowledgement, that somehow Davy knew exactly what I was feeling without me having to say it. I was there for the concert, there to support him and the Monkees with all the love in my heart, and I believe Davy knew that, just as he knew and appreciated how much all of his fans loved him. My tiny moment with Davy seemed to stretch on forever, but the next thing I knew, he'd gone onto his tour bus, and it was soon over as quickly as it had started. I've never forgotten it, nor the opportunity that I had to attend a meet and greet after the concert and get a picture with him. When I heard that Davy passed away, that moment was the first thing that I thought of. I cried for 4 days straight, yet in the midst of the unbearable grief that I felt, my sadness was lined with gratitude for having gotten to share that moment with him when I did. The hurt of losing a man like Davy Jones is not something easily gotten over. He was many things to many people: an entertainer, an artist, animal lover, a father, and a friend. As I watched the outpouring of emotion from Monkees fans in the wake of his passing, I imagined Davy's reaction. I imagined him wiping away our tears, urging us to celebrate his life and remember the joy that he brought us for so many years. And though there are pangs of sadness that still linger, I imagine Davy holding our hands, looking into our eyes, and telling us that everything is going to be all right. Everything will somehow be okay, because Davy Jones loved us, and we loved and will always love him.